Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, beautiful soul. Thank you for joining this new episode after a little break. New things happened, and I just gathered some creativity and the need to speak about a few things that have taken place over the last few weeks. So let's just jump right into the topic today. And you might have seen it already from the title of this episode. I wanted basically to talk about a first try, I guess, a first experience for me with one type of action within animal rights activism. And I've been inspired to do this kind of action, this kind of protest. I've been inspired by two wonderful animal rights activists from Australia who are Tash Peterson and Stefania Ferrario. So both of them are in Australia, and they did this really quite original and really, let's say, attention-catching, very catchy, obvious, and flashy action for animals and animal rights. I think they started like maybe 2 months ago or something. The first one, or a month ago, a little over a month ago. I think the first one was in Melbourne. And why this kind of protest is new is because they do this kind of protest with little cloth on. They do it with beautiful lingerie, and that's why this kind of protest is called the lingerie protest. I'm not really familiar with the way to pronounce lingerie because I usually say it in French, as it is a French word originally. So just excuse me if I don't pronounce that word well. And basically the first time I saw this, a couple of days after when Tash Peterson posted about this on her Instagram and shared it in her stories, I felt like, wow, okay, this women have balls, let's say it that way. For me, it's like they've got just so much courage, and they are claiming their power and just standing with their beautiful bodies with different shapes, different forms, different colors, different hair growth, let's say it like this, and they're just doing it. It's obviously a kind of action that is going to get a lot of attention, more than other kinds of action where people would wear clothes. And there have been, what I really want to emphasize is there have been other protests, people that have been replicating this kind of protest in different countries, and also with men and different genders, and it's being replicated all over the planet. People are just going on the street and showing their true colors, showing who they are and how they feel with their body, showing that they accept their body and that they embrace them, no matter how they look like. And it's just, to me, such a beautiful experience. I'm really touched to see that this is resonating with so many people around the planet, and that so many of them are really daring to do this kind of action. And so, of course, I felt the call deep in my body. I felt the call to organize that kind of action here in Germany. And let's, no, last Saturday, yeah, I think it was end of August, actually, maybe 2 weeks ago or last Saturday, not sure, but it was not a long time ago. I organized this kind of protest in Düsseldorf, in Germany, with another friend of mine. She was the only one on that day who actually dared to come and join. And it was quite risky. Not gonna lie, the weather forecast was not the best. It was basically pouring rain in the morning and after the protest. And deep inside of me, I just truly believed there was something pushing me not to cancel the protest. It was going to take place. The weather would be with us. It wasn't, the hottest weather, the warmest weather, especially when you're just wearing lingerie. But it was actually perfect as soon as we got there, as soon as we started, and until the end of our protest. It may be like rain, like kind of misty rain for like 3 minutes tops, and then it was gone. And that was more towards the end. But the rest of the time it was sunny, it was warm. We got actually to really kind of sunbathe. Yeah, and I just want to tell you, it got such a positive feedback. There were lots of conversations created, just really a positive, resonance, I guess, like a positive welcome from a lot of people from young age or, in the elderly. It was just, for me, it was really like heartwarming to see that even older people were understanding this and like, just getting the message and taking the time to stop and not only look at us and wonder why we were on the street like this, but also to just look at the message and why we are standing there. And it really like triggered some really beautiful conversations, people that started reflecting about this, where, maybe those people actually never even considered veganism, never even have a single thought about it, or never even thought about the conditions in which animals live, whether it's in animal farming in like really massive, like big places, in big buildings where they are enslaved and kept captive, or whether it's on just a beautiful pasture, but yet those animals will all get their throat slit at the end, no matter how they were kept. And some people actually started understanding this and realizing this. And I could see in the eyes of many people with whom I talked on that day that something had been like activated, let's say, a process was definitely taking place and activated in their mind, but mostly in their heart. I could see that these people didn't feel good about participating in the biggest mass murder on a massive scale that's been taking place in the history, and where the number of victims, this is the biggest number of victims in the whole history, that are basically victims of the biggest discrimination on this planet. And it was really encouraging really inspiring to see that, of course, I can create like a start of reflection. I can create a base for someone to start changing their behavior by going on the street with more clothes on. But because this is so new and unusual and daring and maybe controversial as well, and it definitely gets more attention. And so that's why I will hands down do this kind of action again, many times more. I have some other ideas of basically how to apply this kind of action in the winter without freezing too much. But yeah, at first it was quite, I guess maybe for a couple of seconds before I took my clothes off and just like went in the middle of this square, like basically in front of the train station in Düsseldorf, like a few seconds before I went there with my friend. It was just like a bit weird and unusual. And then it was just like, I was basically just standing there. Like for me, it was no other feeling of whether I would be standing there with clothes on or with nothing on. And I think, like to give you, the whole truth about this kind of action and the feedback that we received, there was some backlash. There were many women, especially, not many men, but mostly women, who felt somehow offended by us being there in lingerie. Maybe they feared for their partners. But many of them were basically what's the word in English? That they were basically canceling the validity of our action because we were wearing lingerie. Like we basically, in their eyes, we didn't have the right to do this. Like it was okay to do it with clothes, but then if we were doing it like this, we were seeking attention for ourselves. And yes, we were seeking attention, but not for ourselves, but for the message that we were carrying. And so there was, I recall there was this quite young woman, and she was very emotional. I could feel it in her voice, and she even left, what's the word in English? Oh my God. I'm thinking just like so much more in German. But she basically like had a tear in her eye. But I asked her like, are you crying because of us? And she was like, no, it's just like it happens sometimes. So I don't know why really, but she was like, okay, I understand like what you want to do, but like why would you choose to do this when you could do this just with clothes, and like you don't have to be like this. And just like she felt really, really emotional and quite outraged even. And so I explained to her that as not only human beings, but also as men, women, or other gender identifications, people have basically like very similar bodies. We were born, with this body, and we all have shared the same traits, and we all are equal in that way, that we were born with this body, and we can choose to accept it, or we can choose to deny it, to not fully embrace who we are. But we are given a freedom over our bodies. We can choose what to do with our bodies. We can choose what to wear. We are protected by laws, and somebody doing something to our bodies, like violating our bodies, is actually punishable by the law. And so we have all this system and all this freedom over our bodies and this body autonomy that animals do not have in the industries where they are exploited. They don't even have the right to say if they want to be born, actually bred into existence or not. They don't have the right to say if they want to be sexually abused, like it happens in all industries, basically, where animals are exploited. They have no words, no say in what happens with their bodies. And to us, it was a stance to actually show people we are choosing to embrace our bodies, and because we accept and feel good and because we love our bodies, we are fully okay with using our bodies as a medium of activism to speak up for the ones who have no freedom over their bodies or over their whole life. And after I explained this to her, she calmed down first. She really clearly calmed down. And she understood the power of this action, the power of this message. And she just, became suddenly like really friendly, and it ended up, beautifully. And also, she had some doubts that she could not live vegan somehow because she needs iron. And well, actually, I guess she didn't know that she could get iron from thousands of different plant-based foods or just by getting a plant-based supplement. But after this conversation, it was clear to her, and I am pretty sure that this basically put a little seed in her mind, and I hope that it will keep growing up. So yeah, that was one big experience, a beautiful first try that I did with a friend of mine, for whom I'm really grateful, an amazing woman, an amazing being, and she dared to do it. At first it was uncomfortable for her, and she just amazingly did it for the animals, and I am so thankful for her being there. But basically, like the main message that I want to give through this podcast episode is that some of the backlash we get, and some of the backlash that Tash Peterson and Stefania Ferrario get in Australia for doing this kind of protest, people tell them that they are sexualizing their bodies. And so first I want to read the definition of sexualization. I'm just looking at Wikipedia, and sexualization is to make something sexual in character or quality, or to become aware of sexuality. So what I want to make clear here is that I feel like a deep reason why many people basically are outraged by this kind of action of protest, and why they get so emotional, and why they almost attack and harass and condemn this kind of protest. I have the feeling that a deeper reason for this is because most people are not yet at the point where they do fully love themselves and accept themselves. They are still deeply wounded by the past, by experiences that they had in their background, maybe by wounded by some relationships that they've had, whether it's with their parents that, kind of put them down and didn't celebrate them for how special they are, whether it's in relationships with their partners where they didn't feel comfortable because the one partner didn't make them feel love and didn't accept them fully for who they were. Some people can become easily offended and wounded by such experiences. And especially when this takes place when you're a kid, it just basically has like such a big damage and wound over people, and it just stays engraved for years and years and years. And when this kind of wound is not dealt with and people are not taking care of this, are not looking for the root cause of this, if they're not working on their own relationship to their body, and why is it so that they do not accept themselves, and why is it so that they do not fully love themselves, then they can easily project this kind of wound on other people and basically attack people, because they think that these people are the reason why they are not fully accepting themselves or embracing themselves. It's easier to call out somebody and blame somebody for doing something because it's hard to look at yourself and to go search for the root. It's hard to acknowledge that the wound that you carry, the pain that you carry, doesn't actually stem from those people speaking up for animals in lingerie on the street, but it comes from something deeper. It comes from the past, from something that truly marked you and basically wounded you for so long. And this is a sign that it's now time for you to deal with this, to take care of this, take care of you, so that you can move on and actually fully appreciate yourself, your body, and why people are doing this on the street. And as a result of this action, and actually even before I did this protest, I also created, because of course I'm sure many of you or people who will stop by here are already aware of this platform, which has been already existing for years. But a couple of weeks ago, I created for myself an OnlyFans account through which I am hoping to basically receive financial support so that I can do that kind of action more often, so that I can get video footage, beautiful photos from such actions, so that I can diversify the types of action that I do, so that I can maybe get myself like a big screen that I can carry with myself around and do actions on my own in my city or in other cities. And basically, I just wish to be able to do this every day of my life, because there is nothing else in my life that just like resonates so deeply in me. Of course, I have like other jobs that I do on the side, but it's not sufficient for me in order to get the kind of gear that I wish to have in order to receive more attention, to reach out to more people through my activism. And so, and when I do the other things that I do, like teaching English and French, for example, it's not what fully resonates with me. It's not, my core. It's not what I feel deeply inside of me. Is my purpose, is what is truly helping people or helping the world. And ever since, if you've heard that podcast episode on my podcast, you would know that I had a deep marking experience with ayahuasca that made it clear to me that my purpose was to speak up for the animals and to defend the ones who cannot defend themselves, who cannot protect themselves, who cannot speak up for themselves. And so I created this account on OnlyFans. Ever since this protest, I've rediscovered, better said, my passion as well for beautiful lingerie, for spending time in nature and making beautiful photo shootings. And my boyfriend has been helping me with that as well. And I embrace fully my body. I am aware that people call this sexualization if I desire to make photos, beautiful artistic photos with lingerie or even naked on OnlyFans. And you know what? It's okay. People will always have their opinion, will think what they think. They will assume things about me, even though they do not know me as a person. And we were born with free will and sovereignty over our bodies and over our lives. And I'm choosing to take full responsibility for my actions, for what I send, what I share over social media. And I am in no way uncomfortable about it or ashamed about it. I am doing this because this feels good to me. This is what resonates with me. I am not forced, or nobody is violating my rights or violating my body and forcing me to do this, which in that case could also be called sexualization, when someone forces you to do something that you do not want to do with your body. But this is not the case, and yet people will still call this sexualization. But yeah, like I said, if people enjoy the content that I share here on Instagram, on TikTok, on my YouTube channel, did I already mention the podcast? Yeah. If people enjoy the art that I also sell on my Etsy shop, and they just feel called to support me, I am thankful for every bit and every form of support. It doesn't mean it has to be financial. It could be just a like or a comment or a review here about this podcast on Apple Podcasts if you feel like this brings some value in your life, or that you've learned something from this podcast and that this has helped you to grow as a person and to find your own strength. Just let me know. I would be so appreciative for it. And I think that this will be the end of this episode. I will link, of course, the link to my OnlyFans account in the description box. And I thank you so deeply from the bottom of my heart for sticking to the end. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Namaste.